Good morning. This is Darsh Kapadia, and today we will be interviewing Mr. Aditya Singi. So, Mr. Singi, why don't you introduce yourself?
Good morning, Raj. Um, so I am Aditya Singi. We manufacture MS ingots, mild steel ingots. Um, it's a process wherein scrap is used and melted to make molten steel ingots, which are then cooled and then they are sent over to the rolling mill. I'm a director in the company, and yes, so I think this is the introduction. Let's move ahead.
All right. So, what is your definition of safety?
Hmm. So, from the industry that I come of, safety is of paramount importance. Basically, for the basic reason that we use molten steel, and molten steel is at a temperature of over 1,000 degrees.
Hmm.
And while we are melting steel, there's a lot of fumes also that come out. And those fumes, when inhaled inappropriately or continuously for a long time, will impair your lungs. Also, while the scrap is being put into the furnace, we need to be very careful about the pitch. Therefore, for me, safety stands for giving a secure environment to the person wherein he or she feels secured that there will be no harm to them physically, mentally, and to a bit in terms of emotion.
Hmm.
Once you're able to create that kind of an environment for the person, that is what I would call a safety.
All right. So, do you think that in your industry, in general, that safety is emphasized enough?
So in our industry, there is a lot of improvement in the safety standards even since the last over 15, 20 years, especially when modernization has come up, productivity has increased, and the value of human life in terms of
Hmm.
not life and death, but in terms of good health conditions has become more, um, people have become more aware of the same.
Hmm.
Therefore, in our industry now, a lot of care is taken that people are not subjected to extreme heats on a continuous basis. A lot of care is taken that when the liquid is being poured out of the furnace, the people around are well secured so that the molten steel, when it flows around, doesn't hurt anybody.
Hmm.
And a lot of care is taken where the polluted air is treated in a way that it doesn't or it impairs the people's lungs to very less concern.
Yeah.
So yes, on and on, over a period of time, the steel industry has started taking care a lot of the people they are associated with.
So, what is the ideal safety conditions in the steel industry? And do you feel that the current industries are working towards this ideal, and how close are they?
Uh, Again, I feel there is no ideal condition because an ideal condition can never be met.
Hmm.
But where you can have casualties, damages, injuries is what one should strive for, which I today feel that in the steel industry, the ratio is very good. Enough of safety nets have been provided. So now, earlier there used to be somebody or the other falling or tripping or something, but now it's not so. The workshops are well maintained. The floor area of the manufacturing is also well maintained. Enough of signboards are put up to caution people. Necessary alarms have been put up or in case of any emergencies.
Hmm.
I think the industry is doing very well in terms of taking care of safety of its people working.
So, how much have they improved from where they started out, the industries, with regards to safety?
Sorry, how much have they improved when they started off with the
With regards to safety.
a lot, a lot. So, I mean, if you look at it in the last 30 years and now, earlier there used to be a lot of casualties. People used to fall, people used to get hurt, people used to burn themselves.
Hmm.
But now all those things have been taken care of thanks to a lot of safety measures which have been implemented in force enforced into the situation. Safety is basically a cost to an industry, and it doesn't really give an immediate known output. Hence, there's always a thing that the industry always likes to avoid.
Hmm.
But if it is enforced in the right way, the industry is accepting things, and these norms have now been accepted well. Therefore, now the ratio of any casualty while being on the work floor has become practically to zero.
Yeah. No longer skeptical about safety now.
No, people are no longer skeptical about safety now, provided they follow the norms which have been laid out for them on all the places.
All right. So then, how do you feel that safety and productivity are interrelated?
Definitely, they are interrelated because if a person is secured about his workplace, he is spending more of his time trying to make things better rather than trying to avoid things. So, though it was not understood by the industry earlier, and it was kept more in abeyance, key, we'll see it later because it's a cost and no benefit directly, but it has an indirect benefit which is huge.
Hmm.
The indirect benefit is that once you're feeling more secured about your environment, you are spending less time about concerning about how things will happen and spend more time about increasing of what you can do in a faster and a better way.
Hmm.
Hence, it is a very important thing.
So, how do you feel? What is one way you think industries can take another step forward to create a safer environment for their workers?
So, one thing that we really need to be looking into, which people have started looking into, and I think it should be more done at a faster rate. So, the steel industry, the basic norms of the on the workshop and everything have been now kind of come to a level where there is no possibility of increasing any further safety measures. No, every time you have to be open to certain new norms. That's a separate thing. But on a broader perspective, what's happening is that the fumes that are being released because of the melting of the scrap that are going up in the environment need to be curtailed.
Hmm.
So we really need to get the smoke and the contents of the smoke purified when they are being released in the air. This is going to create a very long-term healthy environment. That I think needs to be addressed in a much more better way because that is one place where we are lacking a bit.
Hmm. It needs to be more
And
explored. Yeah.
sorry,
It needs to be more explored.
yes, it needs to be more explored, and especially when we're seeing the greenhouse effects also happening, the carbon emissions and all. This is all interlinked to that.
Hmm.
When we become carbon net neutral, the environment will become more better and a much safer place to stay in.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that is one place by virtue of which probably by planting trees, rather planting forests, will really help the whole thing out. That's one place where we need to do it, and it's for the society on the whole. A is purify the smoke that we are releasing to an even better extent, and B to compensate the smoke that is being released in the atmosphere by adding trees so
Hmm.
that the oxygenation is higher in the planet.
Yeah.
That is one place where I think, in a very broad perspective, it cannot be directly linked as safety, but it can be definitely linked as good health. And once one of the reasons of being careful about your safety is to have good health.
Hmm.
So that is the area where we should be more vocal and focused about.
Yeah. All right. So, for the machines in your industry, are they regularly maintained, and do you have a scheduled downtime maybe to take care of the equipment, see if everything is in order?
Oh yes, it has to be there because two things: maintenance revamps the machinery and it becomes more productive,
Hmm.
and B, if you're in the middle of a process and the machine breaks down, the cost is much higher
Hmm.
because not only you lose the product that is being manufactured in the furnace, but you also lose critical time. So there is maintenance, there is downtime, and there is scheduled maintenance once in a week in our
Once in
factory.
a week. All right.
Yeah. So once in a week, every Tuesday, When there is no power in the plant, we run our DG sets, by virtue of which we move the machinery around and we give it a full maintenance.
A full check, yeah.
Yeah, full check and maintenance.
So
So
once a
once in a
week,
week is
yeah.
good enough.
It's very good, yeah. So what is something you would recommend to a startup company to invest in with regards to safety?
Uh, that's a very broad question that you're asking me,
Yeah.
because various companies and various businesses have various requirements. So,
Hmm.
like for example,
So
the
let's
steel
say
industry
it's
will
a
have
steel
a.
industry, startup steel industry. What is something you would suggest to them to ensure that their workers are safe?
So, steel is a very old product,
Hmm.
and I don't see that there is any startup in the steel industry. They have all been
Yeah,
there since
they've been there since a
since
while.
years, if not centuries, and they have all improvised over a period of time.
Hmm.
So there will be no new startup in the steel industry coming per se. And for a new company to come, if you ask me, uh, the minimum investment that a steel company will require at least over 100 crores, which should be at least about 10 to 12 million dollars, US dollars.
Hmm. Yeah.
Without that, a plant is not viable. And people who put in that kind of money have to follow certain norms, which are well laid out norms.
Hmm.
So, for the steel industry, I feel that a lot has already been uh, articulately put up in terms of safety norms. The one thing that we need to really look into is how we should minimize the impact of the pollution in the environment, which is
Hmm.
also now being done because greenhouse, the carbon emissions are now a world topic.
Yeah.
And very effectively, people have started moving towards the same thing to get carbon neutral. And if you're doing that, then I think we will have a very safe environment. And steel industry will also be, in a much better way.
More, yeah, more aware of the emissions. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, a startup industry will have its already laid out rules and regulations. So I don't
Hmm.
have any suggestions for that person.
Yeah. All right. Thank you
Mm.
so much for agreeing to this interview, and we wish you luck in your further travails.
Thank you. Wish you luck too. Bye bye.
Bye.